To learn about the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Hit the bell notification. So today I have to take a pause on working on the tiny house, which is really unfortunate because I only got one wall left. So, the anticipation of getting that thing up and being finished with it, then I can get my 2x4s and start building the rafters. Before I get into today's video, I want to talk about the rafters just a little bit. I'm getting a lot of people telling me I can't use 2x4s for rafters. The thing about rafters is it's self-supporting. The tiny house is only 12 feet wide. So my rafter, the angle up is only going to be 3 foot tall. It's not going to be that steep of an angle. I'm talking 6 to 7 feet of a board, and then the angle, it's hard to do with just one hand, hits onto the other side, so they kind of press down on each other. It also has vertical supports about 3 feet out from the side. I got the same kind of flack about 2x4s being used on the floor. And once I was able to prove that it works, that you can use 2x4s because there's supports everywhere. You got wing supports, you got steel bracing, and then I had another beam in the center that braces it. You're only talking short spans that it actually has to support it. That being said, if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or wherever, and you look at these sheds they build, the whole thing's built out of 2x4s. I'm basically following that kind of design when it comes to the roof. If you go to a park, sometimes you'll look up and they're in the picnic area, they have these coverings, gazebos. They're not a gazebo, they're not round, but they use 2x4s also. So this is not something that's very uncommon. I recognize that when you get into the Google and you start Googling things, how much weight can a 2x4 support at 10 feet or 12 feet, it gives you very direct numbers, but it doesn't talk about all the supporting systems that go into rafters. I went to the park where my mom lives, and I saw the 2x4 rafters, and I thought, you know what, I really want to see if this is going to work. And I jumped up on there and I swung on it. One rafter, not all of them, just one. And it held just fine. And it doesn't have any plywood or anything that gives it extra support. It was just rafters you could just jungle gym on. I'm going to get all kinds of people telling me you can't use 2x4s right up to the moment that I actually use 2x4s. Everybody's going to say, hey man, that's great, that works great. Happens all the time. Told me I couldn't build my tiny camper on the back of my truck with 2x2s. Oh, that's not going to work, it's falling apart. It'll blow right off. Can't use screws. Those shear strength of screws is going to just snap when you use that on the camper. It drove all over the country for 2 years and it's on its 3rd year now. So I've told you many times that Carolyn is a genius Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist shopper. She does a fantastic job. She has bought all this material right here. She's bought the OSB and doors and windows. She probably saved us $700 just on doors and windows. She bought insulation for half price, OSB for less than what it was going for before the rise in prices. She got that OSB for $8 a sheet. So again, people telling me you can't burn less than 1 quart of wood each year, no matter what size the house is. It's just not possible. Because I keep saying that's all I'm going to burn. I got, 8 cords right now, and I want to burn 1 cord of firewood each year. I like to have a stockpile of 15 years, and I'm not going to get in the argument of it's not going to last because, it's going to rot. I've talked about that in many videos, that it's not going to rot. Keep it off the ground, keep it covered. You may actually build a shed one of these days, a barn pole, and put all our wood in it. There's all kinds of things we can do to make things work. One of the things that a lot of people said when we bought this property is you can't live on firewood on 1.5 acres. And I kept saying I could and get down trees from other places. I've got one at City Park, I got one over a mobile home trailer. Got everything you see is has been deadfall. I've only cut down one small tree, I think, maybe 2, but they were just in the way. They were over there. It didn't make a lot of wood, but all 8 cords just came from other areas. And people have told me, my parents used to heat with wood. Sorry about the lighting. And it would take 5,000 cords of wood for a little cabin out in the woods. Well, I agree. back in the day, before the 70s, insulation wasn't even a big thing. So houses weren't insulated very well. This one's going to have 2x6, it's going to, I think, R19 insulation. So I'm using 2x6s to insulate. The roof is going to be, the roof and ceiling, the rafters I was talking about, is going to have double insulation. I'm going to put insulation on the ceiling of the tiny house, and then up on the roof, where the peak is. So then you're going to have this trapped air in between that two insulations. I'm going to have tons of insulation. And then back in the day, wood heat just wasn't very efficient. I got the old Franklin stove down here, and that's the most inefficient thing that you can buy. That was built in the 60s. My grandma had one. And there's big gaps in the doors, and I did everything I could to seal it up. I'm using it today, but I really worked to seal it up so it won't use so much wood as an outdoor wood heater. But yeah, that's going to be inefficient. And then I may not make it with just 1 cord of wood this winter with that old thing. But today's technology, there's actually laws requiring that wood stoves become more efficient. Right now, one of the laws has been postponed a little bit because of the economic downturn. They didn't force the companies this year to meet the requirements. Every year you got to get better at being more efficient. So these wood stove makers are having to become more efficient every year. Well, now they got wood stoves that are 85% efficient, 8 to 10 hours burn time on 1 load of wood. Now, I have seen videos of a very popular YouTuber. He, I think, lived in an 800 square foot house and had one of these efficient stoves. And he said he wasn't getting any more than 1 cord of wood. So, well, Carolyn, once again, hit jackpot, hit gold. She found this wood stove, it's a used wood stove, for $300. Now, we looked it up. This is a 200 square foot wood stove. This particular company, I'm not going to give you the name of the company, because once I do that, then folks start telling me, oh, everything is wrong with it. And it's just, it's a big headache thinking, okay, I got to look this up, I got to look this up. The interesting thing is, she bought it for $300. The guy said he bought it for $500. I scratched my head on that, because everything that I found, it's $700. He said he used it twice, and I'm telling you, it sure does look like he's only used it twice. He recrated it. He still had the crate. What he did was he had this out in his shed, his garage. It's like a 1,000 square foot garage, but it's not insulated. And so this thing couldn't keep up. So he had to get a bigger one. He cleaned it up, got the ashes out of it. He said he used it twice. I looked at all the gaskets. They're like brand new. Look at that. So you can tell that this thing has not been used very much. I saw one gasket here that I'm going to fix up. It's to the ashtray. You dump your ashes. But there's a little bit of missing gasket material right there. And I don't know if it was designed like that. It seems like that might be designed like that. But I'm going to go ahead and replace it. I don't see the point in risking it. Now, there's another thing with these new technologies is it's got these little baffles here. It almost looks like, I don't know if you can see that, almost looks like it could burn gas, propane, but it's not. They're baffles. It's actually like a catalytic converter. What it does is when you see smoke coming out of your chimney, that smoke is unburned material, unburned wood. So it's just particles floating up. What these catalytic converters do is it heats up all that unburned smoke. And so when it comes out, all you won't see any smoke. Now you can see that little radiant heat coming out of it. You can see that sometimes in the sunlight, but you shouldn't ever see smoke because of the catalytic converter. So it just works like a car. That's what a car does, is it has that catalytic converter. It heats up and it burns the extra fuels that went through the engine that didn't get burned up in the engine. So that produces more heat by burning everything in it. So it's an 84% efficiency. It's going to take 8 to 10 hours for it to burn its material. And most of my logs that I've already cut are going to fit in here. So that's fantastic. It's a 21-inch gap, which is about what I was cutting it at. It's going to be a tight squeeze for some of the logs. I might have to cut some, miss measurements and that kind of thing. But for the most part, this thing's going to work perfectly. Now the big challenge is to get it out of the truck. So I rented a U-Haul dolly, and I've gotten the truck down, backed it up into a ditch here, so I could lower the back end of the truck So now the tailgate is down to my knee, almost. The biggest problem I'm gonna have is getting it into the house. That is why I'm pausing on building the final wall today. Because the easiest thing to do would be to get it up here. We're gonna put it in this home, right over in this corner, and leave it there. That way it's out of the elements. It's almost 400 pounds, it's heavy. But I'm thinking about kind of shimming it up on bricks and kind of get it up as high as I can. And maybe I can get a fulcrum where I can just lift it backwards right up onto the floor here. I'm very excited we got this heater so cheap. It doesn't matter if he got it for 500 bucks. It matters that I was gonna have to spend 700. The one I was looking at was 800. So I'm going to say that Carolyn saved us $500 on a almost brand new wood stove. And I'll get back to the build tomorrow, I hope, unless you find something else. So thanks for watching.